gave him a journey. Middle class people are being robbed. Bernie will change that, he'll do the job. Let's all vote for Bernie. He's never played dirty. He's never been paid by the big corporations. You know where he stands, and he's right for the nation. Wall Street brokers are getting richer while we try to survive. And we're the ones who are paying for it. That's why we should try to all vote for Bernie. Get on this great journey. And Mr. Sanders will fight the fight, 'cause he's the man who will do it right. Walmart, Burke, Exxon Mobil, and Goldman Sachs make us pay for their mistakes, and they don't get taxed. Let's all vote for Bernie. Let's all vote for Bernie. Social Security, college tuition, he'll always support seniors and women. Let's all vote for Bernie. He's got it right. Vote for Bernie, everybody.
Ooh, all right. Vote for Bernie, everybody. Hello, I'm Aniko Nolan, your host for today's We the People. And we have on our comment mod, we have John Spalding. Welcome, John. Thank you so much for being here.
Yep.
And
hi,
of course,
Nico.
we have John and Janine in the control room. And today our special guest is Geoffrey Young, who is a sixth district candidate from Kentucky. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Aniko.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into politics.
Well, how I got into it probably was reading Gandhi's autobiography in high school, and I was very excited by the idea of nonviolent action to achieve social change and progress. And then I was able to go to MIT. I took 2 classes there by Noam Chomsky in political science on American foreign policy since World War II and social action, how to be an activist, essentially, was the second course. And ever since then, I followed foreign policy and environmental issues closely. I was employed by the Commonwealth of Kentucky in Frankfurt, the capital, in the state energy office. But all that time, I was also keeping up with political events.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for running. I understand that you are a Bernie supporter and that you have some specific issues that you're kind of following along, especially the foreign policy, as you mentioned, and I also saw on your website abortion. So we'll jump into all those topics throughout the show. The first thing I wanted to mention, though, is you kind of ran into some trouble when you ran at the top of the Democratic Party in your state, right?
Yeah, I ran for the same position, U.S. House of Representatives, in 2014. The Republican was the same, Andy Barr. At that time, he was only in Washington for a year. Now he's got 3 years there. So he's really a new incumbent. I don't think he'll be that hard to beat if we have enough support from people of goodwill. But last year, I ran for governor of Kentucky, and I had one opponent in the Democratic primary. He had been the Attorney General of Kentucky for 7 years. His name is Jack Conway. And very much establishment. He favored the coal industry over the environment, and that's the reason I jumped in to run against him.
Mm-hmm. And what happened when you ran?
Well, I filed with a running mate named Jonathan Masters in January of 2015. He had filed a couple weeks before, I think. And so early February, approximately 1 year ago today, the Kentucky Democratic Party held a, quote, unity press conference in the state party headquarters building in Frankfurt. And there, all the establishment Democrats endorsed each other. And the brand new chair of the Democratic Party said to the media that day, Jack Conway is going to be our nominee against whichever Republican they nominate. So 3.5 months before the primary, which happened in May 2015, the establishment Democrats nominated their favorite candidate, completely violated critical bylaws, and basically cheated.
That's crazy.
And those cases got dragged out in court. Let's see, I think there were 3 civil lawsuits. One is finally dismissed. Two civil lawsuits are still active before the Kentucky Supreme Court. And I also, in December, just a month and a half ago, I filed a criminal complaint against these Democrats for violating bylaws, Kentucky statutes, the Kentucky Constitution, and just behaving in a way that suggested a dictatorship more than a democracy.
Mm-hmm. And what kinds of things are you presenting as far as, like, what kind of evidence in their actions did they do? I mean, were they speaking out loud saying, I endorse this person, and therefore basically other candidates are null and void?
That's exactly right. The bylaws say that if any party resources are devoted to one candidate before the primary, equal amount of resources have to be made available to the other candidate, the other Democrat. They're just not supposed to endorse one Democrat before the primary, and they blatantly did it for months. And you know what their defense was? The defense was, we don't have to obey the bylaws. There are 2 cases in the year 1900 and the year 1904 that say that you don't have to obey party bylaws. Every other organization in the world, or in the country at least, if the leaders of an organization violate the bylaws, they get in legal trouble. Somebody can sue them.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely. And so did the judge...
They said, we're the exception. We don't have to obey them. We're the exception because of these 2 cases. Now, there was another case in 1954, a real loser of a case in Louisville. So they're going by these ancient cases, and it's just common knowledge. You have to obey the bylaws or you get in trouble. They don't want to recognize that. They want to deny it. So they're in trouble.
So what now, okay, the first judge dismissed it, and then you had an appeal, right?
Right. The first judge basically said, yeah, this case in 1900 is definitive, and I'm throwing this out. This is a particular judge that likes to throw cases out of his courtroom. It seems like the worst thing you can do to him is make him judge a case.
So then what happens with this appeal, and when do you get a result from that? What are your next steps?
Well, the legal process is very slow, so it's all tied up in court.
Okay, so it's a waiting game at this point.
Well,
that's still a lot of corruption at the top there.
And I think that the party itself is basically good. It's just at the very top that the corruption is, in my opinion. I may find out different later, but right now it looks like a half dozen to maybe 10 people who simply don't believe in democracy. They feel they should make the decisions and not Kentucky's 1.6 million Democrats. I just disagree.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're fighting that. So hopefully you will win, and good luck with that.
Okay.
There's another one, an article that I saw about the Grimes subpoena, Allison Lindergan Grimes, excuse me, that she, the attorney said, subpoena information on the Grimes campaign. What is going on with that?
I don't know the details, but I do know that Allison Lundergan Grimes is solidly within the Democratic Party establishment in Kentucky. She ran against Mitch McConnell for U.S. Senate in 2014. I thought she was a strong candidate, basically decent person, and would have made an infinitely better senator than McConnell, who is sort of like the center of evil in Washington. You all know McConnell, right?
Sure.
Evil. I love that. Absolutely.
So I think she could have won, but she and her advisors, which included her father and some other of these very powerful Democrats, ran the worst Senate campaign in the country in 2014. And that's saying a lot.
But she still got reelected.
Well, she got reelected just last November as the Kentucky Secretary of State. She lost badly to Mitch McConnell in 2014 in November. Because she ran a terrible campaign. You know, she had an ad where she talked about illegal aliens or something. She bashed immigrants to prove. I don't know why she did it. It was a disaster.
Okay. That's interesting. Let me go ahead and check with the chat real quick if there are any comments or questions that we want to direct to Jeff. John?
Yeah, thanks, Nico. There are some great questions in here. There's some good introductions, too. So first you have Barracuda, Jeff. She is a Kentuckian, and she really likes what she's hearing from you. John Whitkiss said he's sick of the DNC. Mar505 said, Kentucky! Exclamation point. We need forward-thinking people. Let's get them in those seats. Let's do and Hannah Smith LaFrenz said, when you did your introduction and you were talking about taking your class from Noam Chomsky, she said, say no more, Noam Chomsky is legit. So you definitely have a friend in Hannah. And so she also has a question. What's the best way to put, in your opinion, what's the best way to put pressure on the federal government to meet the obligations of the IDEA funding for the states?
IDEA funding?
Yeah.
What's that? What is it?
Individuals with Disabilities in Education funding?
Oh. Well, so, I think the question, to generalize it, what's the best way to put pressure on the federal government? One way is to run for something. Run for U.S. House, run for a lower office, run for a local office. When you run for office and you're a serious candidate, people listen. You get into debates. If that funding, if that particular statute or program is important to you, you can talk about it. And if you're challenging a Republican, you know, you've already almost won the debate. If you're challenging an establishment Democrat, you have a lot to talk about. You know, you can say, well, why aren't you doing anything about this?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you very much, John.
Sure, there's a couple more.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Jake was wondering if you had seen Professor Gerald Friedman's analysis on Bernie's economy plan.
Well, I don't think I've seen that particular analysis, but why is the person asking?
And so you heard that, Jake. Why are you asking? So put that in, and we'll come back to it. And Bad Wolf wants to know, how do you feel about medical and recreational marijuana?
I'm in favor of legalization, especially medical. It's been a well-known cure or medicinal herb for thousands of years. I support it.
Cool. And then the last one, real quick, just because they've been easy. Do you have any recommendations for Bernie's climate plan?
The climate plan, wow. First of all, it's a real problem. There are an amazing number of climate deniers in Kentucky. Our coal industry used to be much larger than it is today, but it still has outsized political influence over politicians and laws and the debate in Frankfurt. And so you have my opponent, Republican Andy Barr. This 6th district is in the middle of the state. There's no coal mines, and yet he's running an anti-Obama. He talks about the war on coal all the time, and he does it for one reason only: he can get political points that way. And so the climate action plan in Kentucky, we have to start with the basics, that it's a real problem, and that it actually benefits our economy to invest in energy efficiency, renewable energy technologies, and phase out coal mining. Over time, it might take 3 or 4 decades to phase it out completely. But our economy can prosper if we move gradually away from coal.
Great, thank you very much, Jeff. I actually have a thing in the rundown about the environment and the CPP court decision with the EPA, so we're going to get into that in a little bit. Before that, let me just address a couple things about foreign policy. You mentioned on your website that is one of your big issues. You're an anti-war candidate, and you had posted a couple articles, too, on your Facebook about Obama intensifying war and threats. Can you tell us about your position and kind of what Obama is doing right now and what you agree and disagree with?
All right. That really, I think, is the center of my campaign. Strength through peace and strength through diplomacy rather than military force. War should be the very last option, and we should only engage in modern warfare when the United States itself is attacked. And that is consistent with the Christian just war theory that has been developed over hundreds of years. When we intervene militarily in foreign countries, we inevitably kill innocent civilians. We very often don't know who we're fighting. We sometimes kill our friends, and we kill innocent bystanders. We make enemies. And foreign policy can make or break a nation. We need to be much less aggressive. We need to pull back our drones. We need to stop the drone war. We're making enemies in 50 countries all over the world. And it damages our own national security because these enemies then look for ways to kill Americans. This whole war on terror has been a massive failure. And so in Syria, just to take one example, my opponent, Andy Barr, Republican, has been in Washington 3 years. In 3 years' time, he hasn't noticed that our CIA, our supposed ally, Turkey, our supposed ally, Saudi Arabia, have been strongly supporting Al-Qaeda in Syria, the same group that attacked America on 9/11. He hasn't noticed, or if he's noticed, he's simply refused to say anything about it. And this is bipartisan. It's not just Republicans, although they're the worst. So my opponent is too ignorant to know that we have been helping the people who attacked us. And if I'm elected in November, I'm going to ask to join the House Foreign Relations Committee and the House Subcommittee on Defense Appropriations. I'm going to try to eliminate useless weapon systems from the budget and inject a little bit of sanity into our foreign policy debate. Because right now the United States is running amok in the world. We don't have a clue what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that the WikiLeaks, there was a WikiLeaks posted from Julian Assange about how Hillary is a war hawk and that a vote for her would be a vote for endless stupid war which spreads terrorism. So you obviously agree with that.
I agree with that. Furthermore, that's all the reason any American needs to support Bernie Sanders instead of Hillary Clinton. That single issue. She's too warlike. She literally helped President Obama commit international aggression against Libya in 2011. That makes her and the president war criminals, literally, legally speaking. Aggression is one of the worst war crimes it's possible to commit. And that fact, the fact that Hillary Clinton very often or always takes the aggressive, warlike route, disqualifies her for any office. No American should vote for her for any office on that one issue alone.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. John, is there anything in the chat that you'd like to bring up regarding that specific subject?
There was a couple of comments how they loved the position that you took on being anti-war. There were a couple questions. I'm trying to see if there weren't any questions that came up with regards to that. There are a couple other ones that when it's opportune, I'll go ahead and ask them. Or if you want to, I can bring them in now.
I'm sorry, I lost your audio for a moment there. Can you repeat the last thing you said?
Yeah, there weren't any specific questions relating to our military and war.
Okay.
There were just some other ones in there off topic.
Okay. I was going to jump to our next topic, so I wanted to make sure that we addressed anything that came up there. One of the things you mentioned, Geoffrey, was the federal budget and how it says on your website that you would do a complete overhaul of the foreign policy and military allocations of the budget. What would your priorities be, and what would you cut and where? Because I totally understand and I agree with you that war is the last resort. But if we are attacked, we do need to have some kind of defense. So what would you allow, what level, what extent would you allow the military to be, the size of the military to be?
I'm proposing that it'll take a movement to accomplish this. I'm proposing that the United States cut the budget for the military and for the so-called intelligence agencies by 50%. And if it's done right, our national security could improve. We could be more secure, but this fact is never noted in modern American politics. we're the only country with a worldwide military empire. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
We have bases in 150 countries, something like 800 or 900 bases. You can't even tell how many there are.
Mm-hmm. I read something like we had 11 times the size of the next military in the world. So statistics
right.
like that.
Right. It's totally unnecessary. It's not defense. We're not defending the American people by having these bases all over the world. It's offense.
Empire building.
Exactly. It's the American empire. If you want to look back to biblical times, we are equivalent to Rome, the Roman Empire in the days of Jesus. So we're...
Can I just interject something there, Jeff? I got to say, we are equivalent to Rome, I will agree, historically in many ways, except that Rome was actually, for the time, a lot better with the places it conquered. In many ways, it actually provided more rights, and I know you laugh at that, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do. I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, we're living under the Roman Empire. The Roman Emperor was no joke. It wasn't fun, but we seem to be addicted to war. Official Washington is addicted to military force, and that applies to every Republican who's left in the race. Rand Paul was a slight exception, but he's gone. Mm-hmm. And it applies to Hillary Clinton. She is too warlike for America, and it only gets us into trouble. It's bankrupting the economy. Mm-hmm. It's a waste. And so, and you need to have a defense, of course, in case we're attacked by some country. But we do not need to be killing people in 50 different countries across this world for no reason.
And Jeff,
we're helping Al Qaeda.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead,
sorry to interrupt you there, Jeff. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, Jeff. But you're getting some good reaction to that on in the chat. Jen Davis says that you strike her as a fellow that's willing to listen and consider a problem instead of jumping to conclusions based on emotions. Ed would like to know, would you look into closing some of those bases overseas, or what would be your strategy towards the number of bases?
That's a great question. I would look into closing all of them. Now, that might not be possible, certainly not right away, but we should probably aim to wind down the American military empire until it no longer exists. It harms us more than it helps us. Military spending is, what is it up to, $600 billion a year? That's simply not needed to defend the American people. As I say, the more enemies we make, the less safe we are. I would seriously look at closing every single foreign base.
Mm-hmm. It's in the article, the Military Times article I have in the
yeah.
It said that he just signed that bill, $573 billion for defense operations and another $163 billion for Veterans Affairs Department, which, of course, if we go to war, we are going to have to take care of our veterans. So the allocation of those kinds of funds, we still have to, if that's in the category of military spending, that should be, enough to take care of our veterans.
Right, I would not want to cut that at all. In fact, that needs to be increased. Caring for our veterans of past wars is a solemn obligation that we have undertaken. And what I want to do is stop creating so many more wounded veterans by stopping all of our military interventions overseas.
Thank you. And I love the fact that Bernie worked with John McCain across the aisle to come to the best deal that he could for veteran spending. unfortunately had to happen after a tragedy that happened here in Arizona at the VA, where veterans died waiting for care.
Right.
So yeah, but hopefully that will give a little bit more adequate funding for veterans care.
I hope so.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. Anything else, John, that you wanted to talk about in the chat before I jump to the next thing?
Yeah, so there's a lot. They are really responding positively to what you're saying with, you can't hear me?
Nico, it's on your end.
Okay, they are really responding well to what you're saying. There's wow, Mr. Young just gained my full support with that answer alone, and that was when you were saying that you would close down all of them. Ted says, damn, this guy is really on point. Not for sale is still a little hesitant about that answer, so I don't know, we still need to defend ourselves, but other than that, it's really, you cultivated a lot of positives with that stance and your discussion on foreign wars, so thanks for that.
Awesome. Thank you very much, John.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one of the other things actually still on this topic is the environmental effects of these foreign policy, of these military allocations of money that kind of takes away from other things, such as investment in clean energy and environmental issues. And there was an article here on energyxxi.org, the EPA's power plant regulations, and it says that following unsuccessful attempts by the Obama administration to pass federal legislation that would curb greenhouse gas emissions, the administration decided to go it alone and pursue executive action. What do you think of Obama's actions on that?
Basically, I support them. I think he's doing a good job on the environment. He actually came to an agreement at the latest international climate conference, and I'm with the president on his energy plan. What is not often noticed is that it's more profitable to save energy, prevent the waste, than it is to try to produce it through any kind of supply side source. So coal, for example, that's been undercut by natural gas from fracking. And one reason is that the federal government does not regulate the environmental impacts of the fracking industry. It needs to do that. We need to have a level playing field, and energy efficiency has virtually no environmental impacts at all. So when you save energy, you save money, you stimulate the economy, and you don't have to mine fossil fuels. So it's a win-win all around.
What about the fact that at the Institute for 21st Century Energy from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, it said that the U.S. Supreme Court granted the U.S. Chamber-led coalition's request to block the implementation of the Clean Power Plan.
Right. Well, since the Clean Power Plan was basically sensible and good, I think the Supreme Court's decision was wrong. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce in recent years at the national level has become more and more right-wing and more ignorant. My professional career was at the State Energy Office in Frankfurt, mainly focusing on promoting energy efficiency and renewable energy technologies and alternative fuels for vehicles. Very often, those solutions were cheaper than trying to generate new supplies. Wind power for electricity is making tremendous, steady advances in lowering the cost. And wind turbines now, if your state is windy enough, are definitely competitive with a new coal plant. So coal, I think,
and
is on.
solar too.
Pardon me?
And solar, of course. I'm in Arizona, and I think what's stopping this is our subsidies. We're helping the coal industry and the oil industry along so that they can deplete the earth to make money. Well, if we didn't do that, if we just put those same subsidies towards the wind and sun, we could have basically free energy. But they don't want that.
I wish I had said
no money in that.
That was good.
Well, it's ridiculous. We're going to make progress in that direction. There's just no, we're going to either run out of the natural gas and the oil. They're going to cause earthquakes that are going to destroy the planet. So we have no choice. We've come to the point where we have to change our energy system.
I think that's true. Or we may destabilize the climate of this planet through excessive emission of greenhouse gases. But I think you're right that the solution is staring us in the face. And as a professional in the state energy office, I was constantly saying to people, energy efficiency is the cheapest, quickest, safest, most reliable energy quote source that exists.
Team World
We should start reducing waste and move
so
on
Canada
from there.
got Team USA in the celebrity game. Let's see
Thank you very much.
USA would do.
Okay, next thing I wanted to talk about is another important issue on your website, institutional racism and voter suppression. Specifically, there was a post on Mother Jones back in 2014 shows a redistricting, political resegregation, and the companies that are behind this, and the organizations that are behind this. And why? Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, part of the Republican Party strategy. Step back for a minute, take a little historical perspective. Maybe 30 or 40 years ago, the Republican Party started noticing that minorities didn't like them.
Some great passes too.
And they had a choice at that point. Change their policies and their politics to help all Americans, all groups of people, or try to suppress the votes of the people who dislike them. They chose to suppress the votes of minorities. And that was a fateful decision, but they've stuck to it. And that article you're talking about, once again, refers back to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They gave $9 million to a shadowy Republican group designed to plot how to redistrict within states in order to minimize the number of black representatives. And there was a stark example of the same thing a few months ago in Florida, where a Republican, I think she was a state representative, was caught on tape talking about, okay, how are we going to redistrict this black member of the U.S. House out of her district? The solution they came up with, well, we'll include more prisons, because that meets the population requirement. All the districts are supposed to be equal in population. But they can't vote.
NBA top plays of the night.
So we'll get rid of this black woman by giving more prisoners to her and redrawing the lines. It was disgusting. But the Republican Party has embraced these strategies. I come back again to Mitch McConnell, who actually funds efforts to promote racist redistricting strategies. And there's plenty of racism in other areas. The whole criminal justice system, the police, all of the incidents where black people are simply killed and nobody's punished. America has not solved our racism problem, but
it's all interconnected.
Let's solve it unless we
some of the same group of people.
What?
it's all interconnected, and it like comes back around to the same group of people, you know, in control. It's amazing. Some of the companies, I just want to read a little clip of this paragraph. A major driving force behind this political resegregation is the Republican State Leadership Committee, a deep-pocketed yet under-the-radar group that calls itself the lead Republican redistricting organization. The RSLC is funded largely by Fortune 500 corporations, including Reynolds American, Las Vegas Sands, Walmart, Devon Energy, Citigroup, AT&T, Pfizer, Altria Group, Honeywell International, and Hewlett-Packard.
And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
$9 million from them.
Now, this RSLC, Republican State Leadership Committee, so these are, it's kind of reminds me of the same kind of organization as ALEC, which kind of helps write these laws and tries to get legislators in different states to pass their agenda.
Exactly right.
Similar?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, certain, well, I have to say it, the right wing funds these groups. They're think tanks. They're right-wing think tanks. They go off and do their job, and suddenly you find states where a majority of people vote for the Democrat, and yet the majority of the representatives are Republican. Mm-hmm. And they're really crippling our democracy in order to keep themselves in power. It's shameful.
Yeah, it's terrible. And they have, like Bernie says, they have unlimited money. And so they can push these candidates that are going to do their bidding. And so that's why we are like literally a drop in the bucket trying to fight these big funded think tanks. But you know what? Here we are communicating with the world, having people like you on, and other candidates on We the People. And like you said when we were doing the pre-production meeting, it gives you hope, right?
Sure does. And, you can't ignore the fact that Bernie Sanders just won a massive victory in the New Hampshire primary. And so I think I'm very optimistic right now, sitting here today, about the success of our political revolution. It's not just one person. It's as you said, it's a whole team of people.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. It's a movement, and lately he's been kind of comparing this political revolution to like the women's rights movement, gaining our right to vote, civil rights movement. It never was a president that did it, or one person in government, or even really a group. It was the people pressuring them from underneath. So that's exactly what we need to do. I was at a Women for Bernie meetup last night because it was a national thing, and that's exactly one of the things that we were talking about. And so I think that having you on is awesome, and a show like this, even though it's just a little internet show compared to the $1 million think tanks, I think it's pretty cool.
Well, maybe it'll go viral.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take $1 million to make something go viral. It takes truth and, passion and something that's important that people can relate to, right?
Right. So can I talk about the Planned Parenthood abortion issue for a few minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay. We had the Roe versus Wade Supreme Court decision in 1973. Basically made abortion legal in the first trimester of pregnancy. Very soon after that, a movement formed called they call themselves the Right to Life movement. And their entire purpose was to overturn Roe versus Wade. We're hearing some, what are we hearing?
I don't know where that's coming from, folks.
Okay, that's fine. The so-called Right to Life movement is based on a legal strategy and a certain type of religion. The assumption is, if we overturn Roe versus Wade and make all abortions illegal after conception, the abortion rate will go down, hopefully to close to zero. Right? That's the assumption ever since 1973. The assumption is false. It's wrong. Data from all around the world shows that countries and regions that have liberal abortion laws, like Western Europe, like North America, like the Roe versus Wade decision, have lower abortion rates than countries in Central America or South America where the hierarchy of the Catholic Church is dominant. All abortions are illegal or very hard to obtain. The abortion rate is higher in those countries, but they're all illegal and they're unsafe, and more women die.
Absolutely.
It's very, very rare in politics or in society in general when one side of a question is totally wrong, and the other side, Planned Parenthood, the Democratic Party, are totally right. But that's what we have with the abortion issue. Planned Parenthood is a moral, ethical, effective organization, promotes comprehensive birth control and education, and they provide abortions when needed and wanted in the first trimester. And that is the strategy that wins. That's the strategy that succeeds in lowering the abortion rate.
Absolutely.
The
proof is in the data.
That's right. And then Mother Jones had a good chart on that.
John brought that up. I just saw.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
So,
yeah, and it's really clear. I mean, look at all the European countries and clustered together down there, and North America, and look at where you can't have any abortions. That's where the most of them are happening. So, and dangerously at that, right?
Exactly right. And so the Right to Life movement has accomplished less than nothing in the 43 years since it was founded. Right to Life is wrong. And I call myself pro-life because the policies and laws that I'm proposing and the Democratic Party has been proposing for decades lowers the abortion rate. And so we are the true pro-life Americans, not the right wing, not the Republican Party. Any Republican politician, and every one of them calls themselves pro-life, every Republican politician is a hypocrite on this issue because they're not pro-life at all. They're simply pro.
Once the baby is out of the womb, you have to take care of it.
Pardon me?
It's just it's like their policy. You should take care of the baby while it's in the womb, but once it comes out, don't fund anything to help the children and the mothers.
Yeah, that's another aspect of the hypocrisy there. That's right. The hypocrisy I'm talking about is the laws that the right wing, the GOP proposes actually raise the abortion rate. And that's another shameful thing. I call the entire Republican Party immoral on the issue of Planned Parenthood and abortion. They're so counterproductive that they're immoral about it.
And I mean, how if you can see the data that it's counterproductive what they're doing, and you want less abortions, you would think you would follow the policies that the nations with those statistics that you're wanting for your own nation, you would follow those things. But it's
I think we're going to win this issue. I think what it's going to take is thousands or millions of conversations, just like the one we just had, with people. I'm not blaming the Republican voters. I think they are well-intentioned. They're deeply concerned about protecting what they feel are the most vulnerable members of our society, unborn children, as they say. I don't fault their intentions, but the strategy that the leaders of the Right to Life movement have chosen since 1973 is a disaster. It's counterproductive and therefore immoral. And so the more conversations we have on this issue, we can't just ignore it and give the right wing this issue. We have to fight it, and we do it by talking the way we're talking now.
Absolutely. Thank you. John, let's jump into the chat and see what they've got to say about this. Sorry about the windows, guys. I can't help it. I can't.
So there, Jeff, you are eliciting some great discussion in the chat. It started back with your discussion on the environment, and then it moved into the discussion about the racial inequity and the blocking of the votes, and then onto the abortion issue. Let's start with abortion, and just to give you a couple kudos, Ski Vermont said, I love this man, and Thor Crowley said he is great. One question in there is, actually no, there weren't really any questions. Everyone agreed with you on the issue. They said you're very correct. Brenda said that lower pregnant women deaths too, as far as having the right to having choice. Hannah said there's a TED Talk about how crime dropped after Roe versus Wade.
That's awesome.
Thor said education is our best weapon, and everyone agreed with what you said. There are a couple questions about environment and racial inequality, the Nico. Is it all right if I ask them?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Think It Through was wondering what you thought about the Congressional Black Caucus PAC endorsing Hillary. If you knew that had happened today, and if you had any reactions to that.
Yeah, I did notice that. I feel it's unfortunate when anyone endorses Hillary Clinton.
And Ed wanted to know. Couldn't have asked for a better response on that one, Jeff. And the next one, Ed wanted to.
I think that the Congressional Black Caucus should go back and discuss that some more. And maybe change.
It's just a political action committee. Yeah, it's just a political action committee.
The PAC, not the members of the caucus.
Well, that PAC should discuss it some more. I think they need to read that endorsement.
And Ed was wondering.
It's just too warlike for America.
Ed was wondering, do you support stopping the privatization of the prison system and putting it back in 100% in the hands of the government? What was your stance on that?
Yes, I do. I think privatized prison system is just abuse waiting to happen. I don't think there's any role for profit motive in something like keeping dangerous, violent people off the street. I don't think there's any role for the private sector in our prison system.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
And then just one more.
There are far too many prisoners in this country also for nonviolent crimes. We grossly overuse the prison as a method of social control. That's a serious problem, and it has elements of racism attached to it.
For sure, absolutely does. And I yesterday, John, the out song that you played, the Reagan song, and you said before you played it, listen to the lyrics. And I really, really paid attention to the lyrics that time. I mean, I've heard the song before, but that's exactly what it says, is what Jeff is addressing, is that that racism is inherent in that system. So we definitely need to change it there. So I agree 100%. And thank you, John, for all the information from the chat. We're going to go ahead and give some closing thoughts and promote your website and your campaign again, Jeff. So, John, if you want to bring up his Facebook and his website one more time, want to kind of plug your campaign and give your final thoughts, Jeff?
Well, I'll talk a little bit about my Democratic Party rivals. They are kind of conventional, and they just don't talk the way we've been talking for the last hour. Let's say they're 100 issues you could talk about. It's very important which ones you choose because the corporate media give you an amazingly small number of seconds to talk to the public. This show is an amazing exception to the norm. I get 15 seconds, 30 seconds to talk to a group of Democrats, and so I think the problem with my competitors is that I don't think they're tough enough to beat the Republican. He's a lawyer. He has the gift of the gab. He's very glib, and he can spin. And what we need is our candidates with BS detectors to be able to cut through. We have to cut through the nonsense and get to the deepest issues. So again, foreign policy, I think, is probably the deepest issue we're facing. War is the worst threat to the environment that exists. War and excessive preparation for war are tremendously damaging. And we just have to cut through all this nonsense. I am not willing to let the media tell me what the important issues are. I talk to people and I think about it. And those are the issues I try to hit.
Yeah, definitely. The media, John can say a few words on the media, if you've heard his rants about the media. And you know what? The Young Turks, Cenk Uygur had a really good rant. Right, John?
Yes, Cenk Uygur had a beautiful rant. He finally flipped his lid. It was beautiful. But apparently he's been doing it for a long time, and you go, he's a pro. I just wasn't aware.
Yeah, that one was special because it applied specifically to media. And so that's why I knew that it would be really important to you.
I'll look that up. He's great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jeff. That was a really enlightening hour. A lot of information packed in there. Thank you so much for the chat room. John Spalding, our comment moderator, and all of the chat room people out there, our regulars and our new people, thank you so much for watching. And I just wanted to mention, I saw that Ryan was saying that him and John are at the spin room, right? Can you just real quick before we go tell us what's going on about that? And so I'm curious.
Absolutely. Let me come in real quick here. Give me 1 second. First of all, I just want to say, I got the camera. Jeff, you're a badass. You're a man of peace. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate everything you had to say. It's really nice to have somebody stand up with a brain, speak with I love everything you have to say. You remind me very much of Jimmy Carter, and Jimmy Carter got a bad rap in this country because everybody was all about Reagan running around, blowing things up, and would have been it would have been a much better, kinder world had we stuck with a man like Carter. So it's really nice to see.
I agree. Thanks. I'm 59, and in my lifetime, I think Jimmy Carter has been the best president.
Nice to say. That's nice to say. I hope that Bernie Sanders tops that for you.
I do too.
Him in office. I hope he does. What? We will. We're going to do it. This is it. We're going to put you in office. We're going to put Bernie in office. We're going to put all. We know this. The group out there that's watching right now, that's listening to this, this is what we do. We need to support Jeff. Okay, we need to go to his website. It's young4ky.com. That's Young for Kentucky. And go to his website. Although I'm going to convince you to get a Twitter, and we're going to find a volunteer for Kentucky to help man that Twitter for you. Because when I show you what it can do, Jeff, it is the artillery of truth. It is the artillery of truth. But what we're doing tonight, folks, right after this, we're going to end this. We're going to run a video clip that we have, a nice thing on Facebook, and then we're going to start getting prepped up for the debate. We actually have the debate happening tonight, and we will broadcast the stream from PBS. I'm like 95% sure that we're not going to get shut down. All right. If we get shut down, all right, we'll come back on and we'll do it the meta way. But this should be a full debate. So stick around. It'll be fun, just like this. Audience out there, thank you for hanging here. Make sure we share everything we have of Jeff's. Get the information out there. He is fighting the same media blackout that all Bernie-crats are fighting. He's fighting the same machine. He is one of us. We need to help Jeff get elected. This is exactly what I showed earlier today, folks. I showed that Represent Us video on the newsroom, and this is exactly what that guy's talking about. We take Bernie-crats, people that actually give a shit about the 99, we put them in office, we support them, and then they work with their whatever level they're at, local, state, federal, to write legislation that fixes this mess. And Jeff is one of those guys. So, thank you. Nico, did you want to wrap with anything about this song that we're pulling up here, or what?
Actually, it was posted on Facebook, and it's an Irish Celtic song. It's very a cappella.
Here we go, Irish Celtic.
So, very cool.
We the people, folks. Thank you for joining us, Nico for hosting, and candidate Geoffrey Young.
Thank you, John. Riag Greenleaf is the writer of this song. Bye, everybody.
Awesomeness. Say bye, Jeff. Oh, you don't have to hang up. Just say bye. Wave, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Say bye, John Spalding.
Bye, John Spalding.
Bye, John.
Thanks, Jeff, for being here.
There we go, everybody. See you, family. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Feel the burn, everybody.
Feel the burn.
Oh, tell me, Jane O'Mara, tell me why you hurry so. Hush a buckle, hush and the sun, and her eyes were all aglow. I hear orders from the people, we're all ready, it's our turn. Get out the vote on election day, and we'll make them feel the burn. We'll make them feel the burn, and we'll make them feel the burn. Get out the vote on election day, and we'll make them feel the burn. Tell me, Jane O'Mara Sanders, where the voting is to be. In every city, town and village, in the old land of the free. Let the world hear our people lie, and let the world learn. We're taking back our country, and we'll make them feel the burn. We'll make them feel the burn. We'll make them feel the burn. We're taking back our country, and we'll make them feel the burn. For the future generations, for the memory of the dead, for the children of Flint, Michigan, downtrodden by boots of lead. The only true security is fear and hatred spurned. For the love of all humanity, we'll make them feel the burn. We'll make them feel the burn. I'll make them feel the burn. For the love of all humanity, we'll make them feel the burn. All across this turtle island, all along the Rio Grande, we must feed and teach and nurture every woman, child, and man. Every color, creed, and gender, with heart and mind we yearn. By nature, God, and reason, we will make them feel the burn. We'll make them feel the burn. We'll make them feel the burn. By nature, God, and reason, we will make them feel the burn. And we'll make them feel the burn. We'll make them feel the burn. By nature, God, and reason, we will make them feel the burn.